Single black mom sat alone at the wedding, until a stranger billionaire man whispered, "Act like you're mine tonight. I need you to act like you're mine tonight." Nia stared at the stranger in the expensive suit, certain she had misheard him over the wedding band playing in the background. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" The man leaned closer, his voice low and urgent, his dark eyes locked on hers. "I know how it sounds, but I need you to pretend to be my date tonight, just for a few hours. My ex-girlfriend is here, and she's heading this way with that look in her eyes. The one that says she thinks we're getting back together." Nia glanced at the woman in the gold dress moving through the crowd like a predator stalking prey. She looked back at this impossibly handsome stranger who had just asked her to play a role she'd never imagined for herself. "Why would you need me to do that?" He ran a hand over his close-cropped hair, and for the first time since he sat down, he looked nervous. "Because she's been persistent since our breakup. Because I came to this wedding to support my business partner, not to deal with her manipulation. And because you looked like you needed rescuing as much as I do." Nia looked down at her burgundy dress, then at the empty chair beside her where her 7-year-old son should have been sitting. She looked at the woman in gold getting closer. Then she looked back at the stranger's eyes and saw something there. Sincerity, desperation, hope. What exactly would this involve? She asked. His shoulders relaxed slightly. "Nothing inappropriate. I promise. We'd sit together, maybe dance once or twice. I'd introduce you as my girlfriend. We'd act like we're happy together. That's all. And what do I get out of it?" He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "Besides helping someone in need, I'll make sure you have the best night you've had in months. Plus, I'll owe you a favor. A big one. And I'm someone who pays his debts." The woman in gold was 3 tables away now. "She's almost here," he said quietly. "So, will you help me?" Nia thought about the maid of honor's comment 20 minutes earlier. Some people are just meant to walk alone. She thought about going home to her empty apartment, about the bills stacked on her kitchen counter, about being invisible. Then she looked at this stranger who was asking her to be seen. "Yes," she said. "I'll help you." He reached across the table and took her hand just as the woman in gold arrived. His skin was warm against hers, and even though this was pretend, the touch felt real. What happened next would change both their lives forever. Have you ever been the only single person at a wedding, watching everyone else slow dance while you sit alone? Have you ever felt invisible in a room full of people who used to be your friends? Have you ever wondered if you were meant to be alone forever, if love was something that happened to other people but never to you? What would you do if a handsome stranger offered you an escape from all that loneliness, even if it was just for one night? This is the story of Nia Hayes, a single black mother who thought her chance at happiness had passed her by. A woman who had been abandoned by her best friend, humiliated at a wedding, and left to raise her son alone in a world that judged her for every choice she'd ever made. She had no idea that one whispered proposition from a billionaire stranger would transform her entire life. If you've ever felt overlooked or underestimated, drop a comment below. You're not alone. And hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to get incredible. Let me take you back to where it all began. 2 hours before that proposition, before the stranger, before everything changed. The worst part wasn't sitting alone at her former college roommate's wedding. It wasn't even the way old classmates quickly averted their eyes when they saw her, or how conversations about successful careers and perfect families seemed to pause whenever she approached with her glass of champagne. The worst part was watching Gabrielle, her supposed best friend from their Howard University days, pose for endless photos with people who had conveniently forgotten to include Nia Hayes in any of the pre-wedding festivities, the bridal shower, the bachelorette party, even the rehearsal dinner. Nia smoothed the deep burgundy dress she'd splurged on despite her impossibly tight budget and tried to make herself invisible at table 12, the table tucked near the kitchen doors where the servers kept brushing past her chair. The reception hall at the historic estate glittered with hundreds of candles and crystal chandeliers, but she felt like she was watching it all through a thick pane of glass. Every couple seemed to radiate effortless joy while she sat beside the empty chair that should have held her 7-year-old son, Elijah. Her phone sat face down on the white tablecloth. She didn't need to read the text message again. She'd memorized it. "I'm so sorry, Nia. My daughter has the flu. I can't risk exposing Elijah. You understand." She understood perfectly. She understood that being a single mother meant always having a backup. Plan for your backup plan, and sometimes even that wasn't enough. She understood that people saw her circumstances and made assumptions. 29 years old, divorced, raising a son alone while working as a freelance graphic designer from her one-bedroom apartment. They looked at her and saw failure. Poor choices. A cautionary tale. Nobody saw the strength it took to leave a marriage that was slowly crushing her spirit. Nobody saw the late nights building a portfolio while Elijah slept. Nobody saw her. The maid of honor stood up at the head table, and Nia's stomach clenched. Gabrielle's sister Monique had always looked at her with barely concealed disdain. But that disdain had intensified after Nia's divorce 2 years ago. Monique clinked her champagne glass with a silver fork, and the reception hall gradually quieted. "I want to talk about finding your person," Monique announced, her voice carrying across the space with the confidence of someone who had never doubted her place in the world. "Finding that one soul who completes you, that person who sees you and chooses you every single day." Nia took a sip of champagne and tried to blend into her chair. "Of course," Monique continued, her eyes sweeping the room deliberately, "some people are just meant to walk alone. It takes a special kind of person to end up at a wedding without a date." Again, polite laughter rippled through the crowd. Not cruel laughter exactly, but the kind that came from guests who thought they were hearing. A harmless observation about life rather than a calculated dig at a specific person. Nia felt heat crawl up her neck as several people turned to look at her solitary table setting. The empty chair, the single champagne glass, the woman in the burgundy dress who clearly didn't belong. Gabrielle caught her eye from the head table. She offered a small, apologetic shrug, a slight grimace that said, "Sorry, you know how my sister is." But she didn't correct Monique. She didn't stand up for Nia. She just turned back to her new husband, probably relieved she dodged the bullet of becoming a struggling single mother herself. That hurt more than Monique's comment, more than the stares, more than anything else. Nia had been there when Gabrielle struggled through organic chemistry their sophomore year, spending entire nights helping her memorize reactions and formulas. She'd been there when Gabrielle's father's business collapsed, leaving the family nearly bankrupt. She'd been there when Gabrielle thought she'd never find love talking. Her through 3 terrible relationships before Michael came along. When Gabrielle needed someone to help her study for the MCAT at 3 in the morning, Nia was there with coffee and flashcards. When Gabrielle's apartment flooded, Nia had given up her bedroom and slept on the couch for 2 weeks. But 6 months ago, when Nia had called Gabrielle in tears because her ex-husband was threatening to fight for full custody of Elijah, Gabrielle had been too busy to talk. And 3 months before the wedding, when Gabrielle called to say she'd chosen her sister as maid of honor instead of Nia, her explanation had been simple. Family comes first, you know. Nia had understood then, too. She always understood. A server approached her table, disrupting her spiral of painful memories. He placed a fresh glass of champagne in front of her with a crisp, white napkin underneath. "From the gentleman at the bar," the server said, gesturing across the room. Nia followed his direction and felt her breath catch. A man stood near the bar, tall and striking with warm brown skin and close-cropped hair. He wore a tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent, and even from across the room she could see the kindness in his dark eyes. He raised his own glass slightly in her direction, and the gesture was so confident, so deliberate, that it had to be a mistake. She glanced behind her, certain he was looking at someone else, but there was only the kitchen door and a confused server carrying a tray of hors d'oeuvres. When she looked back, the man was walking toward her table. He moved through the crowd with quiet confidence, the kind that came from never having been told no in his entire life. People tried to stop him to chat, hands reaching out to shake his, voices calling his name, but he politely deflected each attempt. His focus stayed on her. Nia's heart began to race. Men like that didn't notice women like her. Men in expensive suits with expensive watches. She could see the glint of what looked like a Patek. Philippe on his wrist. Didn't send champagne to divorced single mothers sitting alone at weddings. "Excuse me," he said when he reached her table. His voice was deep and warm, like bourbon and honey mixed together. "I hope you don't mind the champagne. You look like you could use an ally." Up close, he was even more striking. His suit was perfectly tailored to his tall frame, and his watch was definitely a Patek. Philippe, probably worth more than she made in 6 months of good freelancing. But his smile seemed genuine, and there was something gentle in his expression that made her want to trust him despite every instinct screaming that this was too good to be true. "I'm Tristan," he said, extending his hand. Tristan Cole, Nia Hayes, she replied, shaking his hand. His grip was firm, but not overwhelming, and he held her hand just a moment longer than necessary. Would it be terribly forward of me to ask if I could sit down? Nia gestured to the empty chair beside her, the one that had been mocking her all evening. It's all yours. My son was supposed to be here, but my babysitter canceled last minute. She waited for it. The subtle withdrawal. The polite excuse to leave. The way men's faces always changed when they found out about Elijah. But Tristan's expression didn't change at all. If anything, he looked more interested. You have a son. He sat down and adjusted his chair to face her more directly. How old? 7. His name is Elijah. 7 is a great age, Tristan said, and his smile was genuine. Old enough to have real conversations, but young enough to still think his mom is the coolest person alive. Nia laughed despite herself, despite the humiliation from Monique's speech still burning in her chest. Some days. Other days I'm the worst because I won't let him have ice cream for breakfast. Tyranny, Tristan said solemnly. Absolute tyranny. The music changed to something upbeat, and the dance floor filled with laughing guests. Nia watched Gabrielle spin in her wedding dress, surrounded by her new family and the friends who had quietly dropped Nia from their circle after her divorce, after she'd become the struggling single mother instead of the promising graphic designer with the bright future. Can I ask you something? Tristan said, leaning closer so she could hear him over the music. Nia nodded, still trying to understand why this man was sitting with her. Would you be willing to help me with something? He paused, and something shifted in his expression. I promise it's not inappropriate or dangerous. She looked at him carefully. There was something serious in his expression now, something that made her think he really did need help. What kind of help? Tristan glanced around the reception hall, then back at her. When he spoke, his voice was low and urgent. I need you to act like you're mine tonight. Which brought them back to this moment, the moment that would change everything. Nia stared at Tristan, the handsome stranger who had just asked her to pretend to be his girlfriend. The woman in the gold dress was 2 tables away now, her eyes locked on Tristan with an intensity that made Nia's skin prickle. Why would you need me to do that? Nia asked again. Tristan ran a hand over his head, and for the first time since he sat down, he looked vulnerable. My ex-girlfriend is here. She's been persistent since our breakup 8 months ago. When I saw her across the room earlier, I knew she'd come find me. She always does. And when she saw me sitting alone, she started heading my way with that look in her eyes. What look? The one that says she thinks we're getting back together. That our breakup was just a phase. That I'll eventually come to my senses and realize she's what I need. He gestured discreetly toward the woman in gold who was now 1 table away, smiling at guests but clearly making her way toward them. The woman in the gold dress talking to the groom's father. Nia followed his gaze and saw her clearly now. She was stunning in a way that made Nia acutely aware of her own Target dress and drugstore makeup. The woman had the kind of effortless beauty that came from expensive skincare routines, professional, styling, and never having worried about stretching a grocery budget to make it through the week. Her gold dress probably cost more than Nia's car. She's gorgeous, Nia said quietly. She's also manipulative, controlling, and thinks my bank account means she owns a piece of my future, Tristan replied. His voice was steady, but Nia heard the frustration underneath. I came to this wedding because the groom, Michael, is my business partner. I didn't know she would be here. She wasn't on the guest list I saw. So, you want me to pretend to be your girlfriend? Just for tonight. I'll make it worth your time. I promise. And you'll be helping me avoid a very uncomfortable situation that could turn into a scene. Nia looked down at her burgundy dress, then back at the woman in gold who looked like she belonged on a magazine cover. Then she looked at Tristan in his perfectly tailored suit with his expensive watch and his confident smile. I don't think anyone would believe that you and I are together. Why not? She almost laughed at the question. Look at her, then look at me. We're not exactly in the same league. Tristan's expression grew serious. He shifted his chair even closer to hers and looked directly into her eyes. First of all, you're beautiful. Second, you have something she doesn't. What's that? Authenticity. I can see it in your eyes. You care about real things, real people. He paused. She only cares about appearances, about what things look like from the outside. The sincerity in his voice made Nia's chest tight. When was the last time someone had called her beautiful and meant it? Not beautiful for a mom or beautiful despite everything. Just beautiful. What exactly would this involve? She asked. Nothing inappropriate, I promise. We'd sit together, maybe dance once or twice. I'd introduce you as my girlfriend if Kennedy asks. We'd act like we're happy together. That's all. Kennedy. So that was her name. And what do I get out of it? Tristan smiled, and it transformed his entire face from handsome to devastating. Besides helping someone in need, I'll make sure you have the best night you've had in months. You looked like you needed rescuing as much as I do. That stung because it wasn't wrong. She had been sitting alone, fighting off pitying looks and painful memories while her supposed best friends celebrated without her. Plus, Tristan continued, I'll owe you a favor, a big one, and I'm someone who pays his debts. The way he said it made Nia think he was talking about more than money. There was something about Tristan that made her want to trust him even, though they had just met, even though this entire situation was absurd. What happens when people ask questions? I don't know anything about your life. We'll keep it simple, Tristan said, pulling out his phone. We met through work. I own a tech company. You're a graphic designer, right? How did you know that? Your hands. He gestured to her fingers. You have ink stains on your right index finger. Either you're a designer who still sketches by hand sometimes, or you're really into crossword puzzles. Nia looked down at her hand and saw the faint blue ink stain she'd missed when scrubbing her hands earlier. She'd been working on a logo design for a client that morning. Graphic designer, she confirmed. Mostly branding for small businesses. I've been freelancing since my divorce, but it's been slow lately. Tristan's expression grew thoughtful. Branding. That's actually perfect. I could use someone with your expertise. For what? I'll tell you later. Right now, my ex is heading this way, and we need to get our story straight. We met through work a few months ago. We've been dating for about 4 months, taking things slow because you have a son and we want to be careful. Does that work? Nia felt her breath catch. Most men ran the moment they found out about Elijah. Tristan was weaving her son into their cover story, like he was an asset instead of a liability. You don't mind that I have a son? Mind. It makes you more interesting, and it gives us a built-in reason for keeping things private. We're being thoughtful about when to introduce me to him. Responsible. The woman in gold, Kennedy, was at the neighboring table now, saying goodbye to the elderly couple sitting there. Her eyes kept flicking toward Tristan. She's almost here, Tristan said quietly. So, will you help me? Nia thought about sitting alone for the rest of the evening. She thought about going home to her empty apartment while Elijah slept at her mother's house. She thought about Monique's comment about being meant to walk alone, about the pitying looks, about feeling invisible. Then she looked at Tristan, who was offering her a chance to feel wanted, even if it was just pretend, even if it was just for one night. Yes, she said. I'll help you. Relief flooded Tristan's face. He reached across the table and took her hand, and even though this was all an act, his skin was warm against hers. The simple gesture felt more intimate than it should have. Thank you, he said quietly. I already owe you. Then Kennedy arrived at their table, and the performance began. Tristan, darling, Kennedy said, her voice honey-sweet but with something sharp underneath, like sugar with glass shards mixed in. I was hoping I'd run into you here. Up close, Kennedy was even more intimidating. Her makeup was flawless, her hair styled in perfect waves, her gold dress fitting her like it had been sewn onto her body. She looked at Tristan with an expression of casual ownership, as if his presence at this wedding belonged to her. Hello, Kennedy, Tristan said, not letting go of Nia's hand. I'd like you to meet my girlfriend, Nia. Kennedy's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second before snapping back into place. But Nia saw it. That moment of surprise, of calculation. Girlfriend? Kennedy's eyes moved to Nia, examining her from head to toe. How unexpected. Nia felt Kennedy's gaze cataloging every flaw. The dress that was nice, but not designer. The simple jewelry. The natural hair pulled back in an elegant bun, but without the glossy perfection of a professional stylist. The subtle signs of motherhood, the slight softness around her middle. The faint circles under her eyes the concealer couldn't quite hide. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Nia could feel Kennedy waiting for her to speak, to stumble, to prove she didn't belong here. It's nice to meet you, Nia said, surprised by how steady her own voice sounded. Yes, well. Kennedy's attention turned back to Tristan, dismissing Nia as easily as one might dismiss a server. I was hoping we could talk privately about the Riverside merger. There are some details we should discuss. There's nothing to discuss, Tristan said, his voice firm but polite. That deal was finalized months ago. Still, I think we should go over the numbers. You know how important it is to me that everything is perfect. Kennedy's smile was bright and brittle. Kennedy, Tristan's voice carried a warning now. I'm here with Nia, and I'd like to enjoy the evening with her. Kennedy's smile became razor sharp. Her eyes flicked between them, calculating, assessing. Of course. How long have you two been together? Nia felt panic rise in her throat. They'd said 4 months, but suddenly that seemed too specific, too prepared. What if Kennedy asked follow-up questions they couldn't answer? But Tristan squeezed her hand gently, a reassuring pressure. 4 months, he said, looking at Nia with such warmth in his eyes that it almost seemed real. Best 4 months I've had in years. The way he said it, the way he looked at her like she was something precious, almost made Nia believe it herself. How romantic, Kennedy said, and the word came out like an insult. And where did you meet? Through work, Nia said, finding her voice. Her spine straightened. Tristan needed someone with branding expertise for his company. Oh, you work for him? There was something dismissive in Kennedy's tone that made Nia's hands clench under the table. I work with him, Nia corrected. We're partners. It wasn't exactly true, but Tristan's approving squeeze of her hand told her she had said the right thing. Partners, Kennedy repeated, as if testing the word for authenticity. How very modern. The band struck up a slow song, and Tristan stood up, still holding Nia's hand. Would you like to dance? He asked, looking down at Nia. She nodded, grateful for the chance to escape Kennedy's scrutiny. As Tristan led her to the dance floor, she heard Kennedy mutter something, under her breath that sounded like, "We'll see how long this lasts." You did great, Tristan whispered as he pulled Nia into his arms for the dance. His hand settled on the small of her back, warm through the fabric of her dress. She already hates me, Nia said. Good. That means it's working. If she thought you were insignificant, she wouldn't care. The fact that she's threatened means she believes it. Nia looked up at him as they swayed to the music. She should have felt awkward, dancing with a stranger, pretending to be his girlfriend. But instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. Seen. What exactly did I just get myself into? She asked. Tristan smiled down at her, and there was something in his eyes she couldn't quite read. Something that made her wonder if this was really all pretend. Something that might be the best thing that happened to both of us tonight. They danced in silence for a moment, moving together with surprising ease. Nia became aware of other people watching them. Whispers, curious glances. She saw Gabrielle staring from the head table, her expression confused. Your friend is watching us, Tristan said quietly. Former friend, Nia corrected. We're not as close as we used to be. What happened? Life. Divorce. Different priorities. She picked her sister as maid of honor instead of me, even though we've been friends since college. That must have hurt. It did. Still does, if I'm honest. Tristan spun her gently, and when she came back to him, he pulled her closer. Her loss. Anyone who can't see your worth doesn't deserve your friendship. The song ended, but Tristan didn't immediately let go of her hand. They stood on the dance floor, other couples moving around them, the moment stretching between them like something real. Nia, a familiar voice called out. Gabrielle was walking toward them, her wedding dress trailing behind her like a cloud of ivory silk and tulle. Her face showed confusion and curiosity in equal measure. Gabrielle, hi, Nia said, suddenly nervous. Congratulations again. Everything is absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Gabrielle's eyes moved to Tristan, then to their joined hands. I don't think we've met. Tristan Cole, he said, extending his free hand. Congratulations on your marriage. Thank you. Gabrielle shook his hand but kept looking between him and Nia. Nia, I thought Kevin was your +1. Kevin was the co-worker Nia had invited out of desperation, just so she wouldn't have to mark the RSVP card as attending alone. He got sick, Nia said. Food poisoning. Couldn't make it. Oh. Gabrielle's eyebrows rose. So, Tristan is? We're dating, Tristan said smoothly. I know Nia was excited to introduce me to her best friend. The phrase best friend hung in the air awkwardly. They both knew it wasn't quite true anymore, but Gabrielle had the grace to look uncomfortable. That's wonderful, Gabrielle said slowly. How long have you two been together? A few months. Nia said, sticking to their story. And I've never heard about him. Gabrielle's tone was more hurt than accusatory. We talked on the phone just last week, and you didn't mention you were seeing anyone. Nia felt heat creep up her neck. Gabrielle was right to be suspicious. They'd talked about Elijah's upcoming school year and Nia's struggle to find clients. And Nia had definitely not mentioned dating anyone, because she hadn't been. We wanted to keep things private at first, Tristan said, stepping in smoothly. You know how it is with new relationships. Sometimes it's better to see how things develop before telling everyone, especially when there's a child involved. We wanted to be sure before introducing me to Elijah. Of course, Gabrielle said, but her tone suggested she didn't quite believe it. Well, I should get back to Michael, but we should definitely catch up soon, Nia. I want to hear all about this. Her emphasis on the word this made it clear she had questions. Definitely, Nia agreed. After Gabrielle walked away, Nia slumped slightly against Tristan. She knows something's off. She's suspicious because you looked guilty, Tristan said gently. If we're going to make this convincing, you need to act like you're happy to be here with me. I am happy to be here with you, Nia said, then caught herself. I mean, I'm grateful for your help. This is better than sitting alone. Are you happy, though? The question was simple, but it made Nia stop and think. When was the last time she had felt genuinely happy? Not content, not managing, not surviving. Actually happy. I'm having a better time than I expected, she said honestly. Good. That's what I want to hear. A waiter appeared with fresh drinks on a silver tray, and Tristan tipped him generously, pulling cash from his wallet with the easy gesture of someone who never had to check his bank balance before spending. As they sat back down at their table, Nia noticed how different everything felt now. The isolation was gone, replaced by Tristan's warm presence beside her. The pitying looks had turned to curious glances. Even the table near the kitchen didn't seem so bad when she had someone to share it with. Tell me about yourself, Tristan said, settling into his chair and turning to face her fully. If we're supposed to be dating, I should know more than just your name and profession. What do you want to know? Everything. Where did you grow up? What makes you laugh? What's it like being Elijah's mom? What do you dream about when you let yourself dream? Nia sipped her champagne, buying time. It had been so long since someone asked her these kinds of questions. Questions that went beyond logistics and responsibilities. Questions that treated her like a whole person instead of just a single mother, just a struggling freelancer, just someone to be pitied. I grew up in Atlanta, she said. My parents are both still there. My dad's a high school principal. My mom teaches music at an elementary school. I have 2 younger brothers who both think they're funnier than they actually are. Are you close with your family? Very. They worry about me being a single mom in the city, but they're incredibly supportive. My mom watches Elijah whenever I need her to. She's the one keeping him tonight. What about friends? Besides Gabrielle? Nia hesitated. The truth was embarrassing, but something about Tristan made her want to be honest. I'm not great at making friends. Gabrielle and I met freshman year at Howard, and we just clicked. Most of my other friendships faded after graduation, and after the divorce, a lot of people just disappeared. I think they didn't know what to say, or maybe they took sides with my ex. I don't know. That's not uncommon. Adult friendships are harder to maintain than anyone wants to admit, especially when life throws you changes. What about you? Nia asked, eager to shift the focus away from her own loneliness. Tell me about your life. Where did you grow up? Tristan's expression grew more guarded, but not closed off. Just careful. I grew up in Savannah. My mother raised me and my younger sister alone after my dad died when I was 8. I'm sorry. Thank you. It was a long time ago, but it shaped everything about who I became. Watching my mom work 2 jobs to keep us fed, to keep us in a good school district. She was exhausted all the time, but she never let us see her struggle. Nia felt something shift in her chest. He understood. He really understood. What does your mom do now? She's retired, living in a house I bought her near the coast. She spends her days in her garden and spoiling my sister's kids. You have nieces and nephews? 2 nephews, 5 and 7. They're terrors. Same age as Elijah. Exactly, which is a great age for causing chaos and asking impossible questions. Nia laughed. Last week, Elijah asked me where God lives and if dinosaurs go to heaven. What did you tell him? That God lives everywhere, and if heaven is real, It definitely has dinosaurs, because what's the point otherwise? Tristan's laugh was genuine and warm. Perfect answer. What else is Elijah into besides dinosaurs? Mario Kart, science experiments that make messes, and asking me to read the same dinosaur book 17 times in a row. Sounds like a great kid. He is. He's the best thing I ever did. The only thing I got right. Don't say that, Tristan said gently. I'm sure you've gotten a lot of things right. It doesn't always feel that way. That's because you're being too hard on yourself. Single parenthood is one of the hardest jobs in the world. The fact that you're doing it while building a career, while maintaining your dignity at events like this, that's not nothing. Nia felt unexpected tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the wedding celebration continuing around them. The band played. Couples danced. Laughter echoed off the high ceilings. Tell me about your company, Nia said. You said you own a tech company? Software development, mostly for healthcare systems. We help hospitals and clinics manage patient data more efficiently. Communication systems, appointment reminders, test results delivery, making it easier for doctors to focus on patients instead of paperwork. That sounds important. It is. And it's profitable, which doesn't hurt. There was something in his tone that suggested the money wasn't entirely a good thing. Something complicated. Is that how you met Kennedy? Tristan's expression darkened slightly. She was the VP of marketing at one of our client companies. We met at a conference 3 years ago. Started dating about 6 months after that. We were together for almost 2 years. What happened? I realized she never asked me questions like the ones I just asked you. She knew my net worth down to the dollar. She knew my business schedule 6 months in advance. She knew which clients were most profitable and which investments were performing best. But she didn't know what I did on Sunday mornings when no one was around. She didn't know what made me laugh or why I started my company in the first place. What do you do on Sunday mornings? Tristan smiled. I make pancakes from scratch and read science fiction novels. Very exciting. I love science fiction. Who's your favorite author? Octavia Butler. Parable of the Sower changed my life. Nia felt her heart skip. N.K. Jemisin for me. The Broken Earth trilogy. The 5th season is a masterpiece. Tristan's eyes lit up. Did you read the whole series? Twice. And I'm still thinking about it. They talked for another hour, the wedding fading into background noise. They discovered surprising connections. Tristan had also grown up in Georgia, just an hour from Nia's hometown. They both loved hiking, but hated camping. They both thought coffee culture had gotten ridiculous. They both had complicated relationships with social media and church and their extended family's expectations. This is the longest conversation I've had with someone new in months, Nia admitted. Most people want to talk about my ex-husband or ask me how I manage being a single mom, like it's some kind of tragic condition that needs to be managed. People are idiots, Tristan said firmly. Being a single parent isn't a tragedy. It's one of the hardest, most important jobs in the world. My mom did it, and I saw firsthand how much strength it requires. How much sacrifice. You really get it. I do. The band announced the last dance of the evening, and couples began moving to the floor for one final slow song. Shall we? Tristan asked, standing and offering his hand. We should probably make one more appearance. Make sure Kennedy sees that we're still together. Agreed, Nia said, taking his hand. But as they moved to the dance floor, as Tristan pulled her into his arms, one more time, Nia realized she had almost forgotten this was all pretend. She had forgotten about Kennedy watching from across the room. She had forgotten that this was just a favor, just a performance for one night. As they swayed to the romantic song, other couples pressed close around them. Nia found herself forgetting everything, except the warmth of Tristan's hand on her back, the smell of his cologne, the gentle way he held her. When she looked up at him, he was already watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Something deeper than pretend, something that made her breath catch. Thank you, he said softly, for tonight, for helping me. Thank you for asking. Can I ask you something else? What? Would you like to have brunch tomorrow? Not as pretend dates. As real people who enjoyed talking to each other. You could bring Elijah. I'd love to meet him. Nia's heart stuttered. This wasn't part of the deal they had made. This was something else entirely. Are you sure? She asked. Most men run when they find out I have a son. I'm not most men. And I'd really like to see you again. Both of you. She thought about saying no, about keeping this as a beautiful memory from one perfect evening, about protecting herself and Elijah from potential disappointment. But looking into Tristan's eyes, she realized she didn't want this to end. "I'd like that," she said, "and I think Elijah would too." "Good. I was hoping you'd say yes. Text me your address and I'll pick you both up at 10. There's this great diner I know. Best pancakes in the city." As the song ended and the reception began winding down, Nia felt like Cinderella approaching midnight. Soon the magic would end and she'd go back to being ordinary Nia Hayes. Divorced, struggling, trying to make ends meet while raising a son alone. But maybe, just maybe, the magic didn't have to end at all. They exchanged numbers at the coat check. Real numbers this time, not just part of the performance. Tristan helped her into her coat, his hands lingering on her shoulders. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow," she agreed. As she drove home through the quiet city streets, her phone buzzed with a text message. "Thank you for a perfect evening. Sleep well." She typed back quickly, her heart racing. "Thank you for the best night I've had in years. See you tomorrow." Another buzz. Looking forward to meeting Elijah, and to more conversations that last for hours. Nia smiled at her phone, then caught herself. She was smiling like a teenager with a crush, like someone who had something to look forward to. When she got home, her apartment felt different, less empty, less like failure. She changed out of her burgundy dress and hung it carefully in the closet. Tomorrow she would see Tristan again. Tomorrow he would meet her son. Tomorrow would tell her if tonight had been real or just a beautiful illusion. But for now, she let herself believe that sometimes fairy tales did continue past midnight. The next morning, Nia stood in her bathroom for the third time in 20 minutes, second-guessing everything. Her reflection stared back at her, dark eyes uncertain, natural hair pulled into a high puff. She'd changed outfits twice already. Too dressy, too casual, trying too hard, not trying hard enough. "This is ridiculous," she muttered to herself. "It's just brunch." But it wasn't just brunch. It was Tristan meeting Elijah. It was finding out if last night had been real or if the magic would evaporate in the morning light. "Mom, are we leaving soon?" Elijah appeared in the bathroom doorway, bouncing on his toes with the endless energy of a 7-year-old. "You said we're meeting your friend." "Yes, baby. We're leaving in 10 minutes. Is he nice?" "Your friend?" Nia turned to look at her son, her heart swelling with love and protectiveness in equal measure. Elijah wore his favorite dinosaur t-shirt and jeans, his hair freshly braided into neat cornrows by her mother yesterday. "He seems very nice, but you can tell me what you think after you meet him." "Deal?" "Deal." Elijah grinned, showing the gap where he'd lost a tooth last week. "Can I bring my dinosaur book?" "Of course." She settled on dark jeans, a soft cream sweater, and her good boots. Casual but put together. She looked like herself, which had to be enough. Her phone buzzed at exactly 10 o'clock. Tristan's name appeared on the screen. "I'm downstairs. No rush." Nia's stomach did a nervous flip. She grabbed her purse in Elijah's hand. "Ready, baby?" "Ready." They took the elevator down from their third-floor apartment. Through the lobby windows, Nia could see Tristan leaning against a sleek black car. Not a sports car or anything too flashy, but definitely expensive. He was dressed casually in dark jeans and a navy Henley, and when he saw them coming through the door, his face lit up with genuine pleasure. "You must be Elijah," Tristan said, crouching down to the boy's level and extending his hand. "I'm Tristan. Your mom has told me a lot about you." Elijah shook his hand seriously, the way Nia had taught him. "Did she tell you I'm the best at Mario Kart?" Tristan's expression turned grave. She did not mention that critical detail. "That's a serious skill. I can beat her every time," Elijah said proudly, looking up at his mother. "Only because I let you win," Nia said, ruffling his hair. "You do not," Elijah protested. Tristan laughed, and the sound was warm and genuine. He stood up and opened the back door of the car for Elijah, making sure he was buckled in properly before opening the passenger door for Nia. The diner was exactly as he'd described. A small, comfortable place tucked between a bookstore and a laundromat, with red vinyl booths and the smell of coffee and bacon in the air. Nothing pretentious, nothing designed to impress, just good food and warmth. They slid into a corner booth, Elijah immediately grabbing a menu even though Nia knew he'd order pancakes. He always ordered pancakes. "So Elijah," Tristan said after they'd ordered, "your mom tells me you're into dinosaurs." Elijah's eyes lit up. "I know everything about dinosaurs. My favorite is the velociraptor, but most people don't know they were actually really small and had feathers. Not like in the movies." "You're absolutely right," Tristan said. "The movies got a lot of things wrong. What do you want to be when you grow up?" "A paleontologist. I want to discover a new dinosaur and name it after me." "Elijah-osaurus," Tristan said seriously. Elijah giggled. "No, it would be Elijah Hazosaurus. You have to use your whole name for scientific stuff." "Of course. That's much more official. I apologize for my mistake." Nia watched them talk, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Tristan wasn't talking down to Elijah the way some adults did with children. He was engaging with him like his opinions mattered, like his dreams were valid and worth discussing. Their food arrived. Pancakes for Elijah, an omelet for Nia, French toast for Tristan. They ate and talked, and Nia couldn't remember the last time a meal had felt this easy, this comfortable. "Do you like science experiments?" Tristan asked Elijah. "Yes, but Mom says I can't do them in the house anymore after the volcano incident." Tristan raised his eyebrows at Nia. "The volcano incident?" "He used too much baking soda and vinegar. Our kitchen ceiling still has a stain." "It was for science," Elijah said defensively. "Science is very important," Tristan agreed. "But maybe next time we do the experiments outside." The word we hung in the air. Next time. Like this wasn't just one brunch. Like there would be more. After they finished eating, Tristan suggested they walk to the bookstore next door. Inside, he made a beeline for the children's section and started pulling books about dinosaurs and paleontology from the shelves. "You don't have to do that," Nia said quietly as Elijah examined an illustrated encyclopedia of prehistoric creatures with wide eyes. "I want to," Tristan replied. "He's a great kid, Nia. You should be really proud." "I am. Every single day." Tristan selected 3 books and brought them to the counter. When Elijah realized what was happening, he looked up at Tristan with something like worship in his eyes. Really, every paleontologist needs a good library." "Thank you," Elijah said, hugging the books to his chest. Outside the bookstore, Elijah ran ahead slightly, absorbed in one of his new books. Nia and Tristan walked behind him slowly. "Thank you for this morning," Nia said, "for being so kind to him. I meant what I said last night. He's a great kid, and I can see how much love you've put into raising him. It hasn't been easy. The best things never are." They walked in comfortable silence for a moment, watching Elijah stop to examine an interesting rock on the sidewalk. "Nia, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Last night you mentioned you've been freelancing, but it's been slow. What would your dream job look like? If you could do anything?" Nia thought about it. "I'd want to work with a company that's doing something meaningful. Not just selling products people don't need, but actually solving problems. I'd want creative freedom to develop real campaigns, not just execute someone else's mediocre ideas. And I'd want financial stability, to not wake up every morning wondering if I can pay next month's rent. What if I told you I might have something like that?" Nia's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" "My company is launching a new product in 6 months. Software that helps small medical practices and community clinics communicate better with their patients. The big hospital. Systems have all kinds of sophisticated tools, but family doctors and small practices get left behind. They're still using phone trees and basic email systems from the 90s. And you want to change that? We've built the software, but we need someone to develop the marketing strategy from scratch. Someone creative who understands how to reach people who aren't tech-savvy. Someone who cares about the mission, not just the paycheck." Nia stopped walking. "Tristan, are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an opportunity. Come visit the office tomorrow, meet the team, see what we're building. If you like it, we'll talk about details. Salary, benefits, all of it. If you don't think it's right for you, you walk away. No hard feelings. You barely know my work. I looked up your portfolio last night. After I got home, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said about branding for small businesses. So I found your website. Your work is good, Nia. Really good. You have exactly the kind of creative thinking we need." Nia felt tears prick at her eyes. When was the last time someone had believed in her professional abilities? When was the last time someone had seen her potential instead of just her limitations? "I don't know what to say. Say you'll come see the office. That's all I'm asking. Just come see what we're doing. She looked ahead at Elijah, who had crouched down to examine something on the ground. She thought about the bills on her kitchen counter, the student loans, the constant stress of never knowing where the next client would come from, the rejection emails from job applications she'd sent to companies that never even called her for an interview. "Okay," she said. "I'll come tomorrow." Tristan's smile was radiant. 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock. They drove back to Nia's apartment building. Elijah had fallen asleep in the back seat, exhausted from excitement and a full stomach. Tristan carried him up to the apartment, following Nia's directions, and laid him gently on his bed without waking him. In the living room, standing by the door, Tristan turned to Nia. "Thank you for this morning, for letting me meet him. Thank you for being so wonderful with him, and for the job opportunity. Even if nothing comes of it, I appreciate you thinking of me. Something will come of it. I have a good feeling about this." He leaned down and kissed her cheek, soft and brief but full of promise. "I'll see you tomorrow." "Tomorrow," she agreed. After he left, Nia stood in her living room, touching her cheek where his lips had been. She looked around her small apartment, at the worn furniture and the toy dinosaurs, scattered across the floor and the stack of bills on the kitchen counter. Tomorrow she would visit his office. Tomorrow she would see if this opportunity was real. Tomorrow would tell her if her life was about to change. But today, she let herself believe in possibilities. The next morning, Nia dressed in her interview outfit. Black slacks, a burgundy blouse, her good blazer. Professional, but still herself. She'd left Elijah with her mother, explaining only that she had a potential job interview and would explain more later. The address Tristan had texted her led to a converted warehouse in a trendy part of downtown. Nia stood outside for a moment, looking up at the brick exterior softened by large windows and climbing ivy. This didn't look like the cold corporate buildings she'd imagined when she thought about tech companies. Inside, the space took her breath away. Exposed brick walls, polished concrete floors, huge windows letting in floods of natural light, plants everywhere, hanging from the ceiling and sitting on desks and climbing up makeshift trellises. The atmosphere was relaxed but focused, people working at standing desks, or in comfortable lounge areas, or in glass-walled conference rooms. "Nia," Tristan called out, approaching with a warm smile. He was dressed business casual today, dark jeans and a button-down shirt. "Right on time. This place is amazing," she said honestly. "It's not what I pictured." "What did you picture?" "Something more corporate, more intimidating. Cubicles and fluorescent lights and sad beige walls. I wanted to create a space where people actually want to spend their time, where creativity can happen. Come on, let me show you around." He led her through different areas of the open space, introducing her to team members. Everyone seemed genuinely happy to meet her, and several people mentioned that. Tristan had been talking about bringing in a marketing director for months. "Here's where you'd be working," Tristan said, stopping at a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the street. "If you take the position," the office was empty but inviting. Built-in bookshelves along one wall, enough space for a proper desk and a small meeting area. And that view. "It's beautiful," Nia said. "But this seems too nice for someone you've known for 2 days. It's not too nice for someone who's going to help us reach thousands of small medical practices across the country. For someone who's going to make a real difference in how healthcare providers communicate with their patients." They settled into chairs by the window, and Tristan pulled out a tablet. "Let me show you what we're working on." For the next hour, he walked her through the software they were developing. It was elegant and intuitive, designed specifically for small practices that didn't have IT departments or big budgets. Appointment reminders, secure messaging, test results delivery, prescription refill requests, health education materials, everything a patient might need to stay connected with their doctor. "The big hospital systems already have tools like this," Tristan explained. "But a 3-person family practice can't afford their systems, can't afford the training, the implementation, the ongoing support, so they get left behind, and their patients suffer for it. And your software would level the playing field," Nia said, her mind already spinning with ideas. "Exactly. A solo family doctor could offer the same quality of communication as a major medical center, for a price they can actually afford." She could see the passion in his eyes as he talked about the project. This wasn't about making money, though she was sure the company would be profitable. This was about solving a real problem, about helping people. "What's the timeline?" she asked. "We want to start beta testing in 3 months, full launch in 6 months." The product is almost ready, but we need a marketing strategy that will reach our target audience effectively. Small medical practices probably don't have big budgets for new software. Exactly. Which is why we need someone creative enough to find ways to reach them that don't cost a fortune. Someone who can think outside traditional marketing channels. Nia leaned forward. I'd want to interview some of your target customers. Understand their current processes, their pain points, what would actually make their lives easier. Absolutely. I can set up calls with a dozen practices we've been working with. And I'd want to research what your competitors are doing, see what's working and what's not. We'll give you access to all our competitive analysis. They talked for another hour about challenges and opportunities. Nia found herself getting excited about the project in a way she hadn't felt about work in years. She was imagining campaigns, strategies, ways to reach busy doctors who didn't. They'd have time to research new software, but desperately needed better tools. Can I ask you something personal? Tristan said during a pause in their conversation. Sure. What happened at your last job? You mentioned budget cuts, but I'm sensing there's more to the story. Nia sighed. She'd known this question would come eventually. The truth is, my boss never liked me. I think he saw me as a threat because I had ideas that were different from his. When they needed to cut costs, I was an easy target. He wanted to focus all our marketing on big corporate clients. I thought we were missing opportunities with smaller businesses who needed our services just as much. Tristan smiled. That sounds very familiar. It does, doesn't it? You'd fit in well here. We care about serving everyone, not just the clients who can pay the most. Why did you start this company? Nia asked. You could probably make more money doing something else. Because I got tired of working for people who only cared about quarterly earnings reports. I wanted to build something that actually helped people. When I was growing up, my family had this doctor, Dr. Patterson. He knew everyone in our neighborhood. He cared about his patients as people, not just medical cases. But he spent half his time on paperwork and phone calls instead of actually helping people. I watched him get more and more frustrated with all the administrative burden. So you decided to give him better tools, and thousands of doctors like him, to give them back time to focus on what matters, on their patients. Nia looked around the office, at the employees working on their projects, at the energy and purpose that filled the space. She thought about what it would mean to be part of something like this, to have a steady paycheck, health insurance for her and Elijah, work that actually mattered. I want the job, she said. Tristan's face lit up. Really? When can I start? How about we start with the practical details first? Let's talk about salary and benefits. Make sure this actually works for both of us. They spent the next hour working out details. The salary was more than Nia had dared hope for. Enough to stop worrying about every dollar. Enough to maybe even save for Elijah's future. The benefits included full health insurance, retirement matching, and flexible hours so she could be there for school pickups and sick days. You have a team of 3 people who'll work with you, Tristan explained. They're young but talented, eager to learn. And you'll report directly to me. Is that going to be weird? Nia asked. Given that we're also dating, are we dating? The question hung between them. I thought we were, Nia said carefully. I mean, last night felt real. This morning with Elijah felt real. But if I'm reading this wrong, you're not reading it wrong. Tristan reached across the desk and took her hand. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. The job offer is real and separate from my personal feelings. You've earned this position based on your skills and experience. But yes, I very much want to date you. If you're interested, I'm interested. Good. Then let's keep the professional and personal separate as much as we can. At work, you're my marketing director. Outside of work, you're the woman I can't stop thinking about. Nia felt her face grow warm. I can live with that arrangement. When can you start? Is tomorrow too soon? Tomorrow is perfect. Tristan's assistant knocked on the office door. Sorry to interrupt, but your lunch meeting starts in 15 minutes. Already? Tristan checked his watch. I'm sorry, Nia. I have a client lunch I can't reschedule. Of course. I should probably get home to Elijah anyway. They stood, and Tristan walked her to the elevator. Thank you for taking a chance on us, he said. Thank you for believing in me. In the elevator, descending back to street level, Nia caught her reflection in the polished doors. She looked different. Happier, lighter, like someone who had something to look forward to instead of just something to survive. Her phone rang as she reached her car. Her mother's name appeared on the screen. "Hey, Mom. How did it go?" "I got the job." Her mother's squeal of joy was so loud Nia had to hold the phone away from her ear. "Baby, that's wonderful. Tell me everything." "I will. I promise. But right now, I need to process it all. Can I come get Elijah?" "Of course. He's been asking about your friend Tristan all morning." That evening, after Elijah was in bed, Nia sat on her couch with a glass of wine and let herself really think about what had happened. In 48 hours, her entire life had changed. She'd gone from invisible and alone to seen and valued, from struggling to stable, from hopeless to hopeful. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tristan. "Congratulations on your first day tomorrow. I know you're going to be amazing." She typed back, "Thank you for this opportunity, for everything." His response came quickly. "Thank you for saying yes, to the job and to me." Nia smiled at her phone, then set it aside. Tomorrow would be her first day. Tomorrow, she would start building the life she'd always wanted. But tonight, she would let herself believe that sometimes miracles did happen. Sometimes strangers became something more. Sometimes one night at a wedding could change everything. She thought about the woman she'd been 2 days ago, sitting alone at table 12, feeling invisible and forgotten. She thought about Monique's cruel comment about being meant to walk alone. She thought about Kennedy's dismissive look and Gabrielle's confusion and all the people who had underestimated her. They'd all been wrong. She wasn't meant to walk alone. She wasn't meant to be invisible. She was meant to be exactly where she was right now, on the edge of something beautiful and terrifying and wonderful. Nia raised her wine glass in a solitary toast. "To new beginnings," she whispered. And to the stranger who whispered the right words at exactly the right time. Have you ever wondered if one moment could change your entire life? Have you ever felt like giving up, only to have someone see potential in you that you'd forgotten existed? Sometimes the people who save us are the ones we least expect, and sometimes we save them right back. If you're rooting for Nia and Tristan, if you believe in second chances and new beginnings, drop a comment below. Tell me about a time someone believed in you when you needed it most. And hit that subscribe button, because this story is just getting started. The real challenges are still ahead, and you won't want to miss what happens when Nia's new life gets tested in ways she never imagined. 3 weeks into her new job, Nia felt like she was living someone else's life. A better life. A life she'd never dared to imagine for herself. Her days were filled with creative challenges that actually excited her. Developing marketing campaigns for the healthcare software, interviewing small practice doctors about their pain points, building strategies that could reach people who needed help but didn't know solutions existed. Her team, 3 young professionals who initially seemed skeptical of the new boss, had warmed to her quickly when they realized she actually listened to their ideas. Her evenings were spent with Tristan and Elijah, building something that felt remarkably like a family. Pizza nights at the arcade where Tristan taught Elijah how to work the claw machine. Movie nights on her couch where Elijah would fall asleep between them. Bedtime stories where Tristan did all the dinosaur voices and made Elijah giggle until he couldn't breathe. Sunday mornings had become sacred. Tristan would arrive at 9 with ingredients for pancakes, and the 3 of them would cook breakfast together. Well, Tristan and Nia would cook while Elijah provided commentary and tried to sneak chocolate chips from the bag. Everything was going perfectly, which was exactly why Nia should have known trouble was coming. It started on a Thursday afternoon. Nia was in her corner office reviewing market research data when her assistant, a bright 24-year-old named Jordan, knocked on the door. "There's someone here to see you," Jordan said. "She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's urgent." "Who is it?" "Kennedy Westfield. She says she knows you." Nia's stomach dropped. Kennedy, the woman in the gold dress from the wedding, the ex-girlfriend who Tristan had needed protection from. What could she possibly want? "Send her in," Nia said, trying to keep her voice steady. Kennedy walked into the office like she owned the building. She was just as stunning as Nia remembered, today wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than Nia's monthly salary. She carried a handbag that Nia recognized from a magazine spread. Hermes. Tens of thousands of dollars on her arm like it was nothing. "Nia," Kennedy said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "What a lovely office. Tristan certainly takes care of his employees." The emphasis on the word employees was deliberate. "Kennedy, what can I do for you?" "I was hoping we could have a chat." Woman to woman. Nia gestured to the chairs by the window, unwilling to let Kennedy see how much her presence unsettled her. "What about?" Caroline sat down and crossed her legs elegantly. About Tristan, of course. And about this convenient little arrangement you two have. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, come now. We're both adults here. Kennedy's smile was sharp. I know what Tristan is like when he's really interested in someone. And what I saw at that wedding wasn't it. Nia felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her voice level. You're wrong. Am I? Tell me, when did you two really meet? I don't see how that's any of your business. Kennedy laughed, and the sound was like breaking glass. You met at the wedding, didn't you? He needed a date to avoid me, and you were conveniently sitting alone. How perfect. The accuracy of the guess made Nia's heart race, but she didn't respond, didn't confirm, didn't deny. I thought so, Kennedy continued. The question is, what did he promise you in exchange? Money? A job? She looked around the office meaningfully, her gaze taking in the windows, the built-in shelves, the prime location. Both, apparently. You need to leave. I'm trying to help you, Nia. Kennedy leaned forward. You seem like a nice person, but you're in over your head. Tristan doesn't date women like you. Women like me, Nia repeated flatly. Ordinary women. Single mothers struggling to make ends meet. Women who need rescuing. He likes his charity cases for a while, makes himself feel like a hero. But eventually he gets bored and moves on to someone more suitable. Each word was designed to hurt, and it was working. Kennedy was voicing every insecurity Nia had been trying to ignore for 3 weeks, every doubt that crept in late at night when she was alone, every fear about being good enough, worthy enough, right enough for someone like Tristan. If that's true, why are you here? Because I care about Tristan, and I can see he's making a mistake. He thinks he wants something real and simple, but that's not who he is. He needs someone who understands his world, his responsibilities, the kind of life he actually lives. Someone like you, Nia said. Exactly like me. We're from the same world, Nia. We speak the same language. We understand the same expectations. You and Tristan are from completely different universes, and eventually that gap will destroy whatever you think you have. Nia stood up, anger finally overriding her hurt. This conversation is over. Please leave. Kennedy rose gracefully and smoothed her skirt. Think about what I've said, Nia. Ask yourself if this is really love, or if you're just a convenient solution to a temporary problem. And ask yourself what happens to your son when Tristan gets bored. When he breaks your heart, that's one thing. But when he breaks that little boy's heart because he's already thinking of Tristan as a father figure, that's something else entirely. The mention of Elijah was the cruelest cut. The one thing Nia couldn't defend against because it was her deepest fear. That Elijah would get attached. That he would love Tristan. That Tristan would leave and break both their hearts. After Kennedy left, Nia closed her office door and sat down heavily in her chair. The woman's words echoed in her mind, mixing with her own doubts and insecurities. Was she being naive? Had Tristan offered her the job just to keep her around? Was their relationship real, or was she just filling a role in his life until something better came along? Her phone buzzed with a text from Tristan. Looking forward to dinner tonight. I found this great Thai place I want to take you and Elijah to. Usually, a message like that would have made her smile. Today, it made her stomach twist with anxiety and doubt. Nia managed to get through the rest of the workday, but barely. She caught herself staring at her computer screen without seeing it, reading the same paragraph of research 5 times without comprehending a single word. She left early, claiming a headache, and picked up Elijah from her mother's house. That evening, Tristan arrived at 7 as planned. He was excited about something, practically bouncing with energy as they drove across town to the restaurant. Elijah chattered in the back seat about his day at school, about the science project he was working on, about the new dinosaur facts he'd learned. The restaurant was beautiful and family-friendly, with colorful murals and a kids' menu that came with crayons. They ordered food, and Tristan helped Elijah with a coloring page while they waited. Everything should have been perfect, but Nia couldn't stop hearing Kennedy's voice. Charity case. Convenient solution. What happens to your son when he gets bored? Is everything okay? Tristan asked quietly while Elijah was absorbed in coloring a T-Rex. Nia forced a smile. Just a long day at work. Anything you want to talk about? Not right now. Not in front of Elijah. Their food arrived and they ate. Elijah told terrible knock-knock jokes he'd learned at school. Tristan laughed at all of them, even the ones that didn't make sense. They should have been having a wonderful time. After dinner, Tristan suggested they walk along the nearby waterfront. It was a beautiful summer evening, the kind where the heat of the day had faded into comfortable warmth. Fireflies blinked in the darkness. Elijah ran ahead, trying to catch them in his hands. "Okay," Tristan said once Elijah was out of earshot. "What's really going on? You've been distant all evening." Nia took a deep breath. "Kennedy came to see me today." Tristan stopped walking, his expression darkening. "What did she say?" "That you don't really care about me. That I'm just a charity case you'll get tired of eventually. That I need to think about what happens to Elijah when you get bored and move on." "And you believed her?" The question was gentle, but Nia heard the hurt underneath. "I don't know what to believe. This all happened so fast, Tristan. The job, us, everything. 3 weeks ago, I was struggling to pay my rent. Now I have a great job and a relationship that seems too good to be true. Maybe it is too good to be true. It's not too good to be true. It's just good. How can you be sure?" Tristan was quiet for a long moment, watching Elijah chase fireflies in the summer darkness. "Because I've never felt this way before," he said finally. "Not with Kennedy. Not with anyone. When I'm with you and Elijah, I feel like myself. Not the successful businessman everyone wants something from. Not the guy who has to be careful about people's motives. Just Tristan. Just me. But what if Kennedy's right? What if we're too different? What if 6 months from now you realize this isn't what you want? What if we're not too different? What if the differences are what make this work? What if 6 months from now we're even happier than we are today?" Nia wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust this. But Kennedy's words had planted seeds of doubt that she couldn't ignore. "I think I need some time," she said quietly. "Time to think about us, about the job, about everything." "Time apart?" Tristan asked. She nodded, unable to meet his eyes. "If that's what you need." The drive back to her apartment was quiet and tense. Elijah had fallen asleep in the back seat, exhausted from chasing fireflies. When they pulled up outside her building, Tristan turned to her. "Nia, whatever Kennedy said, whatever doubts you're having, remember one thing. I chose you. Not because you were convenient or easy, but because you're extraordinary. I don't feel extraordinary. That's one of the things I love about you." The word love hung between them, heavy with meaning and possibility. Tristan had never said it before, and now he'd said it as she was pulling away. "I'll call you," Nia said, getting out of the car. "I'll be waiting." Nia carried sleeping Elijah up to their apartment and laid him gently in his bed. Then she sat on her couch in the darkness and cried. Cried for the fear, cried for the doubt, cried for the possibility that she was throwing away the best thing that had ever happened to her because she was too afraid to believe in it. Her phone buzzed with a text from Gabrielle. "I heard you're dating Tristan Cole. We need to talk." Nia ignored it. She couldn't handle Gabrielle's questions and concerns tonight. She couldn't handle anything tonight except the weight of her own confusion. The next morning at work felt different. Wrong. Tristan was professional and polite when their paths crossed in the hallway, but the easy warmth between them was gone. Her team noticed the change, asking if everything was okay. Nia lied and said she was just tired. She threw herself into work, trying to lose herself in market research and campaign development, trying not to think about Tristan, trying not to think about the hurt in his eyes when she'd asked for space. She was in her office late Monday evening, staring at spreadsheets without seeing them, when Jordan knocked on her door again. "I'm sorry to bother you," Jordan said, "but there's someone here to see you. He says he's Tristan's father." Nia looked up in surprise. She'd heard Tristan mention his mother, but never his father. She'd assumed he wasn't in the picture. "Send him in." The man who entered her office was an older, more formal version of Tristan. Silver hair, the same kind eyes. But there was something guarded about his manner that put Nia on edge. He wore an expensive suit and carried himself with the quiet authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Miss Hayes," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Thomas Mitchell, Tristan's father. Thank you for seeing me without an appointment." Nia shook his hand, confused. "I didn't realize Tristan's last name was Mitchell. He uses our mother's maiden name, Cole, for business. A small rebellion from his college days that stuck." Thomas settled into the chair across from her desk and looked around the office approvingly. "Tristan has spoken very highly of your work," he said. "He tells me you've brought fresh perspective to the marketing strategy. I'm enjoying the challenge. I'm sure you are. It's quite an opportunity for someone in your position." There was something in his tone that reminded Nia uncomfortably of Kennedy. Something dismissive. Something that suggested she didn't quite belong. What can I do for you, Mr. Mitchell? I understand you and my son have become close. We're dating, Nia said carefully. Or we were. Things are complicated right now. I see. Thomas nodded, as if this confirmed something he already suspected. And how long have you known Tristan? About a month. A month. And in that month, you've started dating and received a significant job promotion. I earned this job based on my qualifications. I'm sure you believe that. Thomas leaned forward slightly. Miss Hayes, I'm going to be direct. My son is a good man, but he has a tendency to be impulsive, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. I'm not sure I understand. He sees someone in need, and he wants to help. It's an admirable quality, but it sometimes leads him to make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. Nia felt anger beginning to build in her chest. Are you suggesting that I'm taking advantage of your son? I'm suggesting that perhaps this relationship has moved faster than is wise for either of you. That perhaps the lines between personal and professional have become blurred in ways that could create problems. With respect, Mr. Mitchell, that's between Tristan and me. Thomas's expression hardened slightly. Is it? When my son's personal decisions affect his business judgment, it becomes a family matter. Hiring someone he's romantically involved with creates complications, conflicts of interest, potential legal issues, questions about favoritism. The implications of his words hit Nia like a physical blow. You think he hired me because we're dating? I think he hired you very quickly after meeting you, and I think his feelings may have clouded his professional judgment. That's not true. He saw my portfolio. He believed in my abilities. How can you be certain? You've known him for less than a month. Can you honestly say that his attraction to you played no role in his decision to offer you this position? Nia thought about the wedding, about Kennedy, about Tristan asking her to pretend, about the brunch the next morning and the job offer that same day. She thought about Caroline's words. Charity case, convenient solution. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. Thomas stood and straightened his jacket. I want you to consider whether this situation is fair to either of you. Tristan deserves to make clear-headed decisions about his company and his personal life. You deserve to build a career based on your own merits, not on someone's romantic feelings. And if I agree with you, then perhaps you might consider taking some time apart. Allow Tristan to focus on his business. Allow yourself to pursue opportunities where your personal and professional lives aren't so entangled. You want me to quit? I want you to think about what's best for everyone involved, including your son. Children get attached quickly, don't they? And when adult relationships end, children are often the ones who suffer most. The mention of Elijah, coming so soon after Kennedy's similar threat, made Nia's hands shake. I think you should leave now. Thomas walked to the door, then paused. I'm not asking you to disappear, Miss Hayes. I'm simply suggesting that some distance might be beneficial for everyone. After he left, Nia sat in her office feeling worse than she had since Kennedy's visit. Now it wasn't just Tristan's ex-girlfriend questioning their relationship. It was his family. His father thought she was a gold digger, a charity case, someone taking advantage of his son's good nature. She was still sitting there an hour later when Tristan appeared in her doorway. His expression was a mixture of anger and concern. My assistant said my father was here. He said, what did he want? Nia looked up at him, and suddenly everything Kennedy and Thomas had said came pouring out. To convince me that we're bad for each other, that you hired me because of our relationship, that I'm a conflict of interest, that you're making emotional decisions instead of logical ones. Tristan stepped into the office and closed the door behind him. What did you tell him? I didn't know what to tell him, because maybe he's right. Maybe Kennedy's right. Maybe everyone who's questioning this is seeing something I'm too desperate to see. Nia, look at me. She met his eyes reluctantly. I didn't hire you because we're dating. I hired you because you're talented and creative and exactly what this company needs. Yes, I care about you, but that's separate from your professional abilities. How can you be sure? How can you separate the two when they happen so close together? Because I've been in business long enough to know the difference between a good employee and a good person. You happen to be both. Nia stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. But your father has a point about conflicts of interest, about people questioning whether I earned this position or whether you just gave it to me. Let people question. Anyone who sees your work will know the truth. What if they don't? What if this damages your company's reputation? Then we'll deal with it. But Nia, we can't make decisions based on what other people think. based on their fears and judgments. Maybe we should, though. Maybe they're seeing clearly and we're not. Tristan came to stand beside her at the window. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we move too fast. Maybe your father's right that we need distance. Maybe I should resign, and we should figure out the personal stuff separately from the professional stuff. You don't want to do that. How do you know what I want? Because I know you love this job. I see how excited you get about the campaigns. How much you care about reaching the doctors who need our help. Don't let my father and Kennedy take that away from you. But what if staying damages both of us? What if people always question whether I earned this position? Then we prove them wrong. Together. Nia turned to face him. I don't know if I can do this, Tristan. All of it. The job and the relationship and dealing with people like Kennedy and your father who think I'm not good enough. You are good enough. You're more than good enough. She shook her head, tears threatening. Everyone keeps telling me this isn't real, that it won't last, that I'm not right for you, and I'm starting to believe them. What do you believe? Tristan's voice was gentle now, pleading. I believe I've never been happier than I've been these past few weeks. I believe you make me want to be braver and stronger. I believe what we have is worth fighting for. But what about your father? What about Kennedy? What about everyone else who thinks this is a mistake? Let me worry about them. The only opinions that matter are yours and mine. So tell me, Nia, what do you want? She looked at him, really looked at him, at the sincerity in his eyes, at the vulnerability in his expression, at the man who had chosen her, believed in her, seen her when everyone else looked past her. I want to fight for this, she said quietly. I'm scared, but I want to fight. Tristan stepped closer. Then, let's fight. Together. He pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in days, Nia felt like she could breathe again. No more running away, he asked. No more running away, she promised. But even as she made the promise, even as she held on to Tristan and tried to believe in them, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered that Kennedy and Thomas weren't finished yet, that the storm was just beginning, and that voice was right. The next morning, Nia arrived at work to find Thomas Mitchell waiting in her office. He sat in her chair behind her desk like he owned the space. When she walked in, he stood and placed a manila folder on the desk. What is this? Nia asked. Thomas's expression was cold now, all pretense of politeness gone. Documentation from your previous employer. I thought you should see it before Tristan does. With shaking hands, Nia opened the folder. Inside were copies of employment records she'd never seen before. A termination letter dated 2 months before she'd left her job. The reason given was violation of company policy, specifically unauthorized access to confidential client files and sharing proprietary information with competitors. This is impossible, Nia said, her voice barely above a whisper. I never violated any policies. I left because of budget cuts. Perhaps, Thomas said, but these documents exist, and they paint a very different picture of your departure than the one you shared with my son. Nia flipped through the pages. Everything looked official. Company letterhead, signatures, dates, but none of it was real. None of it had happened. This is fake, she said. All of it. Can you prove that? The question hung in the air like poison, because Nia realized with growing horror that she couldn't prove it. Her former boss had been careful to protect the company when he let her go, making her sign a non-disclosure agreement about the circumstances of her departure. She'd been so desperate to move on that she hadn't questioned it, hadn't kept copies, hadn't documented anything. Who gave you these? She asked. Thomas didn't answer directly. Someone who cares about my son's welfare and the future of his company. Someone who knows that due diligence matters when making hiring decisions. Kennedy, Nia said. The source is less important than the content. Can you explain these discrepancies? They're lies. Someone fabricated these documents to make me look dishonest. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Then you should have no problem discussing this with Tristan before he makes any more decisions that could damage his company's reputation. Nia's mind raced. Even false accusations could destroy trust. If Tristan saw these documents, even if he believed her, the seed of doubt would be planted. And in business, doubt was enough to ruin everything. What do you really want? She asked Thomas. He picked up the folder and held it. I want my son to make rational business decisions. I want his company to be protected from potential legal liability. And I want you to understand that if these documents become public, they will destroy your career. No one will hire you. No one will trust you. But if I leave quietly, then perhaps these documents never need to see the light of day. Perhaps we can all move forward with our lives. Nia felt trapped, cornered. She could fight, but what weapons did she have? Her word against official-looking documents. Her integrity against manufactured evidence. I need time to think, she said. Of course. Take the evening. But Miss Hayes, I suggest you think very carefully about what's best for everyone involved, including your son. After Thomas left, Nia sat at her desk and stared at the closed folder. She could take it to Tristan right now, show him what his father was doing. But what if he didn't believe her? What if the documents planted enough doubt that their relationship couldn't survive? Her phone rang. Tristan's name appeared on the screen. She let it go to voicemail. That evening, Nia sat in her apartment after putting Elijah to bed. The folder sat on her coffee table like a ticking bomb. She'd been staring at it for an hour, trying to figure out what to do. Her phone buzzed with another call from Tristan. She ignored it again. A text message appeared. Please talk to me. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it together. Another message. My father came to see you again, didn't he? Whatever he said, whatever he showed you, I need you to trust me. Nia picked up her phone with shaking hands and typed, Can you come over? We need to talk. 30 minutes later, Tristan was at her door. She let him in, handed him the folder without a word, and watched his face as he read through the fabricated evidence. When he finished, he looked up at her. This is fake. The relief that flooded through her was so intense, she almost cried. You believe me? Of course I believe you. Nia, I've worked with you for 3 weeks. I've seen your integrity, your work ethic, your dedication. These documents don't change what I know about you. But they look official. Someone could use them to destroy my reputation, to destroy your company's reputation. Let them try. Tristan set the folder aside and moved to sit beside her on the couch. I'll fight anyone who comes after you with lies. Your father said if I leave quietly, the documents will disappear. My father is being manipulated by Kennedy, and he's trying to manipulate you. But we're not going to let them win. How do we fight this? Nia asked. How do we prove these are fake? We start by calling your former boss, getting a statement about what really happened when you left. Then we find out who created these documents, and we expose them. Tristan pulled out his phone. What are you doing? Calling my lawyer and a private investigator I trust. If Kennedy paid someone to create fake employment records, there will be a trail. Money transfers, communications, evidence. You do that for me? I'd do anything for you. They spent the next 2 hours making calls and sending emails. Nia's former boss, reached at home, was initially reluctant to get involved, but when she explained that someone was using forged company documents to attack her, he agreed to provide a written statement. Budget cuts, he confirmed over the phone. Nia Hayes was never terminated for cause, never accessed client files inappropriately. Her departure was entirely due to financial constraints. I'll send a notarized letter first thing in the morning. Tristan used his business connections to reach a private investigator who specialized in corporate fraud. The man asked detailed questions about the documents, about Kennedy, about the timeline of events. I can trace this, the investigator said. If she hired a company to create fake employment records, and she probably did because this is more common than you'd think, I'll find the paper trail. Give me 48 hours. After the calls were done, Tristan and Nia sat on her couch in the quiet apartment. Thank you, she said, for believing me, for fighting for me. Thank you for trusting me enough to show me what my father brought you. You could have run. You could have disappeared. I thought about it. I was so scared that you wouldn't believe me. Tristan took her hands. I will always believe you, and I will always fight for us, no matter who comes after us or what lies they tell. What about your father? I'll handle him. Tomorrow, we're going to sit down with him and show him the truth. Show him how he's been played. The next morning, Tristan requested a meeting with Thomas in the conference room at his office. Nia joined them, carrying a folder of her own now. Evidence, truth, proof. Thomas sat at the head of the table, his expression guarded. I assume this is about the documents I showed Miss Hayes, he said. It's about the lies someone has been spreading to manipulate you, Tristan replied. Dad, you've been played. He slid across the table a notarized letter from Nia's former boss, along with the private investigator's preliminary report. Thomas read through everything carefully, his expression growing more serious with each page. Caroline Westfield paid a company called Corporate Verification Services $15,000 3 weeks ago, Tristan explained. They specialize in creating fake employment records for corporate espionage. It's basically document forgery for hire. Thomas looked up, and for the first time, Nia saw something like shame in his eyes. Kennedy did this? She wanted to destroy Nia's credibility, wanted to make you doubt her so you'd pressure me to fire her, wanted to drive a wedge between us. Thomas set down the papers and looked at Nia. I owe you an apology, Miss Hayes. I was concerned about my son's welfare, but I allowed that concern to cloud my judgment. I should have investigated more thoroughly before confronting you. I understand you were trying to protect your family, Nia said quietly. Still, I was wrong. About you, about your qualifications, about your relationship with Tristan. Tristan leaned forward. Dad, I need you to understand something. Nia's not going anywhere. She's my partner in business and in life. Anyone who attacks her attacks me, and that includes Kennedy. What will you do about her? We're going to give her a choice, Nia said, finding her voice. She can disappear quietly, or we can make her fabrication of evidence very public. Thomas nodded slowly. That seems fair, and for what it's worth, I can see now why my son cares for you. You have strength, integrity. You didn't run when things got difficult. Thank you, Nia said. After Thomas left, Tristan turned to Nia. Ready for the next part? Confronting Kennedy? Together, that afternoon, they drove to Kennedy's downtown office. The building was all glass and steel, cold and perfect, just like Kennedy herself. The receptionist tried to tell them Kennedy was unavailable, but Tristan walked past her desk with the confidence of someone who wouldn't be stopped. Kennedy's office was on the 25th floor, with windows overlooking the city. She looked up in surprise when Tristan and Nia walked in without knocking. Tristan, what a surprise. And Nia, how unexpected. We know what you did, Tristan said without preamble. The fake documents, the forged employment records. We have proof. Kennedy's composure slipped for just a fraction of a second before snapping back into place. I have no idea what you're talking about. Nia stepped forward and placed a folder on Kennedy's desk. Corporate Verification Services, $15,000. 3 weeks ago. We have the payment records, the communications, everything. Even if that were true, Kennedy said carefully, it's not illegal to verify someone's employment history. It's illegal to fabricate evidence and use it to damage someone's reputation, Tristan said. It's called defamation, and it comes with both civil and criminal penalties. Kennedy sat back in her chair, finally understanding that she'd been caught. What do you want? We want you to stop, Nia said. No more surprise visits. No more lies. No more attempts to sabotage our relationship or my career. And if I refuse, then tomorrow morning, I'll be making some very interesting phone calls to your clients and professional contacts, Tristan said. I wonder how they'll feel about working with someone who fabricates evidence and engages in corporate fraud. Kennedy stared at them for a long moment, clearly weighing her options. Pride versus pragmatism. Revenge versus self-preservation. Fine, she said finally. You win. I'll leave you alone. Good choice, Tristan said. Because if you ever come near Nia or Elijah again, I'll make sure everyone in this industry knows exactly what kind of person you really are. As they walked out of Kennedy's office building, Nia felt lighter than she had in weeks. The threat was over, the lies exposed, the enemy defeated. Is it really over? She asked. Tristan took her hand. It's over. Now we can focus on the important things. Like what? Like building our life together. Like launching this software. Like being happy. Over the next few weeks, life settled into something wonderful. The software beta testing exceeded all expectations. Nia's marketing campaigns were reaching doctors across 5 states. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. More importantly, Nia and Tristan found their rhythm as a couple. They stopped hiding their relationship at work, and if anyone had questions about favoritism, they were silenced by Nia's undeniable results. Her team respected her. Her campaigns worked. That was all that mattered. Elijah's science fair came and went, with Tristan in attendance cheering louder than anyone when Elijah won second place with his project on dinosaur extinction theories. Watching Tristan high-five her son, Nia felt her heart swell with a happiness she'd never known before. Gabrielle reached out with a genuine apology. "I was a terrible friend," she wrote in a long text message. "I let my own insecurities make me distant when you needed support. I'm so happy you found Tristan, and I'm sorry I doubted you." Nia met her for coffee, and slowly, carefully, their friendship began to mend. Thomas invited them for Sunday dinner and spent the evening getting to know Elijah, asking about dinosaurs and science and Mario Kart. By the end of the night, he pulled Nia aside. "My son loves you, and I can see why. I'm glad he found you." 6 months after that night at the wedding, Nia stood at her office window watching the first snow of winter fall over the city. The software had launched to overwhelming success. She'd been promoted to chief marketing officer with a salary that still made her dizzy when she thought about it. But more than the professional success, more than the money or the title, what mattered was the life she'd built, the family she'd found. "Admiring the view?" Tristan asked, joining her at the window. "Admiring everything," Nia replied. "A year ago, I was sitting alone at a wedding feeling sorry for myself. Now look at us. Any regrets?" "None. You?" Tristan smiled, and there was something nervous in his expression, something that made Nia's heart start to race. "Actually, I do have one regret." "What's that?" "I regret not asking you this sooner." He dropped to one knee right there in her office, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Through the glass walls, Nia could see their employees stopping work to watch. "Nia Hayes," Tristan said, "you and Elijah have changed my life in ways I never imagined. You've made me braver, kinder, happier than I ever thought possible. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Nia's face as she nodded. "Yes, yes to everything. Yes to you. Yes to us. Yes to whatever comes next." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and their employees erupted in cheers visible through the glass walls. Tristan stood and pulled her into his arms, and Nia felt like her heart might burst from happiness. "Where's Elijah?" she asked suddenly. Tristan grinned and gestured toward the door. Her mother appeared, holding Elijah's hand. The boy broke free and ran into the office. "Did you say yes? Did you say yes?" "I said yes, baby." Elijah threw his arms around both of them. "Does this mean I can call you Dad now?" Tristan crouched down to Elijah's level, his eyes bright with tears. "I would be honored if you called me Dad." As Nia watched Tristan and Elijah embrace, as her mother wiped happy tears from her eyes as their co-workers celebrated outside the office, she thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. The woman sitting alone at table 12, convinced that love wasn't meant for her. That woman could never have imagined this moment, could never have believed that a stranger's whispered proposition would lead to a family, a career, a life beyond her wildest dreams. But sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes one moment of saying yes instead of no changes everything. Sometimes the people who save us are the ones we save right back. Flash forward 1 year later. Nia stood in a bridal suite at the same historic estate where Gabrielle had gotten married. But this time, she wasn't sitting alone at table 12. This time, she was the bride. Her dress was simple and elegant, chosen with Tristan's input because that's how they did everything now, together. Her mother fussed with her veil while Gabrielle, her maid of honor, touched up Nia's makeup. "I'm so happy for you," Gabrielle said quietly, "and I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you when you needed me." "You're here now," Nia replied. "That's what matters." A knock on the door revealed Thomas, distinguished in his tuxedo. "The groom sent me," he said with a smile, "but I was hoping I might have the honor of walking you down the aisle. With your father, of course, one on each side." Nia felt tears threaten her carefully applied makeup. "I would love that." The ceremony was small and intimate, just family and real friends, the people who mattered. As Nia walked down the aisle between her father and Thomas, she saw Elijah standing at the front in his little tuxedo, holding the rings and beaming with pride. And then she saw Tristan, and everything else faded away. He was crying, not even trying to hide it. When she reached him, he took her hands and whispered, "You are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." The officiant began the ceremony, but Nia barely heard the words. She was lost in Tristan's eyes, in the promises they were making, in the family they were creating. When it came time for vows, Tristan spoke first. "A year and a half ago, I saw a woman sitting alone at a wedding. She looked invisible, but I saw her. I saw her strength, her grace, her beauty. I asked her to act like she was mine for one night. Today, I'm asking her to be mine forever. Nia, you've taught me that love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other every day. It's about fighting for each other. It's about building something real together. Nia's hands shook as she spoke her own vows. You saw me when I felt invisible. You believed in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. You loved my son like he was your own before you ever had to. Tristan, you taught me that I was never meant to walk alone. I was meant to find you, to build this life with you, to say yes to love instead of yes to fear. They exchanged rings. The officiant pronounced them married. Tristan kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. At the reception, Elijah gave a toast. I'm 7, he said into the microphone, so I don't know a lot about marriage, but I know my mom is happy now. She smiles all the time. And I know Tristan is the best dad ever because he does dinosaur voices. When he reads to me and he never gets mad when I beat him at Mario Kart. Laughter rippled through the guests. I'm really glad he asked Mom to act like she was his at that wedding. Because now she really is. And so am I. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Later, as Nia and Tristan danced their first dance as husband and wife, she looked around at the celebration. At Thomas dancing with her mother, at Gabrielle laughing with Nia's brothers, at Elijah showing his new dinosaur facts to anyone who would listen. Happy? Tristan asked. Happier than I ever thought possible. He pulled her closer. The stranger who whispered, act like you're mine, is gone. Now I get to say, you are mine. Forever. And you're mine, Nia replied. Forever. As they swayed to the music, Nia thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The humiliation at Gabrielle's wedding, Kennedy's cruel words, Thomas's doubts, the forged documents, every obstacle they'd overcome together. She thought about the single mother who'd felt invisible and worthless, about the woman who'd been ready to give up on love entirely. That woman was gone now, replaced by someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, someone who had fought for her happiness and won. Sometimes fairy tales do come true. Sometimes you do get the career, the love, the family, the happy ending. Sometimes you just have to be brave enough to say yes when a stranger offers you a chance at something more. Sometimes the worst night of your life leads to the best life you could imagine. And sometimes, when you're sitting alone feeling invisible, all it takes is one person who sees you to change everything. Have you ever wondered if one moment could change your entire life? Have you ever felt like giving up, only to discover that your breakthrough was just around the corner? Nia's story reminds us that we're never too broken for love, never too burdened for happiness, and never too late for transformation. What's your story of unexpected love or second chances? Share it in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone who needs hope today. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the power of choosing love over fear, hit that like button and subscribe. To Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips for more stories that prove love is always possible, no matter how impossible it seems. Share this with someone who needs to believe in second chances. Share it with the single parent working 3 jobs and wondering if happiness will ever find them. Share it with the person sitting alone feeling invisible. Share it with anyone who needs to remember that their story isn't over yet,